One of the hot topics nowadays is about parental alienation. Is it real or is it just a legal tactic? I'm Jim Kraayeveld, lead attorney at Kraayeveld Family Law, and I've been handling parental alienation cases since 1998. When? The term parental alienation didn't even exist, nor did refuse and resist dynamic exist. The facts of the case were parental alienation, but it wasn't even a theory back then. So what I want to talk about is one of the most controversial topics in Michigan family courts. Whether you're trying to prove that there's alienation or defend against the claim of alienation, we got to discuss, is it even real? And lots of attorneys, lots of experts say, nope, there's no such thing. But in the thousands of court cases around the country, judges find parental alienation. And that would seem to suggest something otherwise. So, which one is true? If you're going to look at all of the different associations around the world, in the United States and around the world, they're going to say no. The American Psychiatric Association, the APA, consistently refuses to include it in their DSM-V diagnostic manual. That means that they're not accepting it as either a diagnosable disease or disorder. They say because they can't replicate it. The World Health Organization has denounced it. There are entities, big important entities, that are saying parental alienation syndrome doesn't exist. And the syndrome maybe doesn't. Another one, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Courts, has shunned the concept of including parental alienation syndrome because it doesn't meet the court's evidentiary standards. You got to have someone say, all right, yes, this is a diagnosable disorder, and therefore we're going to apply it in this case. The United Nations Human Rights Council has said, well, it's a pseudo concept, but they don't want it being used in the court system. They want it prohibited. And so you've got all of these big entities, organizations saying, nope, there's no such thing. But a 2020 study just found that there were over 1,200 trial and appellate cases where judges did find that there was parental alienation evidence that was relevant, it was admissible, and it was part of their decision when they were dealing with the custody and parenting time of minor children. I've handled dozens of cases, many of which I've taken to trial, where the judges did find parental alienation. Whether they call it parental alienation or whether they call it resist and refuse dynamics or they call it Munchausen's syndrome by proxy or whatever the case may be, the courts are going to look at the parent's behavior and how it's affecting the children. So, some of you may be asking, well, why isn't it included in the DSM-V? Well, some say it's in its infancy. We don't have enough information about it. The studies that are being done on it are contradictory. The studies can't be reproduced, and you got to be able to reproduce studies in order to be included in the DSM-V. Some folks will argue, well, it's a legal or a behavior problem. It's not a mental illness. Even though parental alienation may harm children, is it a mental illness? Some say it's not. And some will argue, no, there are other diagnoses that already exist that would cover the behaviors. So if a parent is narcissistic or has borderline personality disorder or whatever the other diagnoses, that's the reason for the behavior and not a parental alienation syndrome. But when we're dealing with real life, what's real? If you've got behaviors or behavior patterns that are hurting the child, you've got a concern that needs to be brought to the court. And if it's affecting the children and it's not in their best interest, the child's declining mental health maybe is being caused by alienation, courts are going to look at it. Often when you see cases that involve parental alienation, there are other mental health problems that are involved, and you're going to see other mental health behaviors. The narcissistic parent, the borderline personality disorder parent that doesn't have boundaries. Regardless of whether or not parental alienation syndrome is not included in the DSM-V, there are a lot of experts, though, that will agree that parents will still exhibit behavior patterns that alienate the children from the other parent. Call it parental alienation. Call it refuse and resist dynamics. I don't care if you don't give it a title. The harmful effects are there. And so when you've got people using or abusing the parental alienation analysis, if you will, they'll abuse it by making claims of parental alienation to whitewash their own estrangement issues. So the counter-argument to parental alienation is often estrangement. You've got a parent that has no good, strong relationship with their kid. That kid doesn't want to come for parenting time, and they're saying, well, it's all the other parent's fault for alienating the kid. Well, no, maybe the fact that you ended up drunk and sleeping while the kid was looking at you and couldn't wake you up, or that you were mean to them, or you were abusive to them, or you were abusive to other kids, or the person living in your house, and they don't want to spend time with you, was caused by you, and you were abusive. Well, all of a sudden you've got an estrangement issue that isn't alienation. But there are plenty of parents that will put bad ideas in their kids' minds, and they'll cause the child to then all of a sudden, out of the blue, fear the other child, not want to go on parenting time. And they are alienating the child. So is it a syndrome? Maybe not. But are there alienating behaviors by some parents that affect parenting time? Yes. Yes, you ought to get a GAL in your case, and you're definitely going to need an expert to differentiate between false allegations and legitimate claims of parental alienation. Until next time.